This is Mandy Rose, a fixture of WWE's women's division in the late 2010s, and someone that clearly had a lot of potential. It was a slow and steady grind for Mandy within WWE, and just when it seemed like she had finally hit her stride, it truly turned over a new leaf and developed into what could be a future top-tier main eventer. It all came to an end. So what exactly went wrong for Mandy in WWE? Well, that's what we're here to find out. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling, and we're going to look at the unfortunate and abrupt decline of Mandy Rose in WWE. Let us know what you think in the comments below. The real-life Mandy Sakamano began her wrestling career as a fish out of water, starting off as a fitness model and making the switch to pro wrestling in 2015, coming to WWE's attention through their Tough Enough reality series, which was revived at the time, where hopefuls would compete in a reality TV scenario for a WWE superstar contract. Rose, who was placed second in the competition overall, would impress enough to earn herself a 5-year contract with WWE. She was also added to the cast of the E-reality series Total Divas in the start of 2016 before even wrestling a match on WWE television. She made her NXT TV debut in August of 2016, teaming with Alexa Bliss and Sonya Deville in a losing effort against the team of Liv Morgan, Nikki Cross, and Carmella. Whether her skill level warranted it or not, Mandy got a main roster call-up in November of that year, teaming with Paige and Sonya Deville to form a group known as Absolution. The trio, though exciting a little bit, didn't exactly set the world on fire in WWE, given the company had already tried the entire formula of trios of random women put together and having some isolated, cohesive purpose, especially during the women's evolution with Team Bad, Team PCB, Team Bellas. You kind of see where we're going here. Not to mention that another 3-woman team, the Riot Squad, featuring Ruby Riott, Sarah Logan, Liv Morgan, was also active in WWE around this time. In her first year on the main roster, Rose was an entrant in the inaugural Women's Royal Rumble match and competed in the first ever Women's Elimination Chamber match. It was a good time to be in WWE and women's wrestling. She also made her short WrestleMania debut in a Women's Battle Royal match. It wouldn't be her most memorable WrestleMania moment though. We'll get to that later. Following her time in Absolution, Rose was a part of an awkward romantic storyline involving Naomi and her real-life husband, Jimmy Uso. This was pretty cringeworthy, kind of trashy reality TV show stuff, but a soap opera angle in the soap opera of wrestling. Mandy would soon rejoin her longtime tag team partner from the Absolution days, Sonya Deville, entering the Elimination Chamber with the goal of becoming the inaugural WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. The duo, dubbed Fire and Desire, would come up short as Bayley and Sasha Banks walked out with the titles. At this point in her career, Mandy had never enjoyed much in terms of championship success, but was still present for several significant moments as WWE's women's division truly evolved. Despite some limitations that some fans saw in her in-ring work, she was still undeniably improving, even drawing some comparisons to Trish Stratus, who had also made the leap to professional wrestling from the fitness model world. But wait, what's that? Can you hear it? It's coming. It sounds big. Oh yeah, it's... Wait a minute, yeah, it's Otis. In 2019, Rose would find herself involved with the Heavy Machinery tag team and their bulldozing Otis, who was somewhat of a sweetheart to her. The two had agreed on Valentine's Day to a date. Yes, what an odd pairing. Before the big man was replaced by Dolph Ziggler, the storyline would continue into WWE's pandemic era with no fans present. It was lighthearted mid-card fare, and she excellently played her role, leading into a match at WrestleMania 36, which unfortunately didn't have any fans present for it. They had quite the storyline. This was probably one of the better romantic storylines WWE had presented in quite some years, and Rose was benefiting from it. With the conspiring Sonya Deville, who disapproved of Otis and Mandy's union, also at ringside, Otis would best the sneaky and conniving Ziggler, with Mandy taking care of Sonya. Sadly, this wasn't the end. The actual end of the feud came following a backstage attack and an impromptu haircut on Mandy. courtesy of DeVille, her former tag team partner. Mandy would get her revenge at SummerSlam, taking down Sonya in a loser leaves WWE match. This was the biggest match of Mandy and Sonya Deville's career so far, and it was certainly special that the two of them coming up together got to experience it together. She would go on to form a tag team with NXT alum and another former fitness model in Dana Brooke in 2021. Mandy got a chance to compete at WrestleMania 37 in a tag team turmoil match, which was alright. Granted, the wrestling world was talking about Mandy that night, but maybe for the wrong reasons. Or just one reason. Mandy falling on her backside during her walk down on the entrance ramp. Yes, just as WWE returned in front of live fans, this little botcheroony was something that people would share, and it was a meme and blah blah blah. The internet does internet things. So let's not rag on poor Mandy not too long over this. It was an accident, probably quite embarrassing. Not to mention the rain earlier in the night at the stadium, probably being something that affected it. Still, it was a moment, a memorable, humorous one that people kind of put up there with the Titus World slide a few years prior. After this, the team of Rose and Brooke would dissolve, and Mandy, though, would take an interesting move. Some would see it maybe as a demotion, but she saw it as a special opportunity and ran with it in WWE's developmental territory once again back in NXT. At this point, you're probably wondering exactly how did WWE maybe not get the best of Mandy Rose on the main roster? All things considered, it seemed like she had a decent run up until this point, especially when some consider that she had a limited skill set, but still an undeniable personality. We also have to go back to a time that some fans don't want to remember, they want to block it out from their memory. WWE NXT 2.0. I know, we're sorry, but it's necessary, and that reboot of NXT was necessary. The maligned at the time reboot of WWE's third brand to focus less on an all-star cast of independent wrestling names to a more purely developmental catch-all of in-house talent has proven to be successful for WWE, but at the time, fans weren't feeling it. It felt like a really big, uneasy time for NXT. And NXT 2.0 is where Mandy Rose got her chance, though, to show everything that she learned on WWE's main roster. Returning to NXT allowed her to be featured more. Rose would form a group known as Toxic Attraction, with the deviant Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, a career-defining run for Mandy. She would take the group forward in NXT's rebrand, which began in September of 2021. She soon captured the NXT Women's Championship, her first singles title in WWE, besting Raquel Rodriguez, then known as Raquel Gonzalez, in a trick-or-treat street fight. Yes, chosen by Chucky. Yes, that Chucky, the fictional murderous doll from the Child's Play movie franchise, which was getting a TV series. And, of course, the same Chucky who is Rick Steiner's good friend from WCW. This all took place at Halloween Havoc 2021, because where else would it happen, and kicked off a 400-day-plus reign for Rose as NXT's top women's champion. In her time with the title, Mandy showed vast improvements in the ring and on the mic. She was doing it and proving that she could do it at the highest level in NXT. This rubbed off on Toxic Attraction, who would capture the NXT Women's Tag Team titles soon after, establishing complete dominance for the trio in NXT's women's division. Toxic Attraction is the attraction, Rose would say on a weekly basis, and you couldn't dispute the claim. They were one of the top acts on NXT. They were a consistent, dominant highlight of a very hard transitional period for NXT, with Rose as a sneaky, conniving, yet dominant women's champion, taking down most of the very young developmental roster, with the likes of Io Sky and Roxanne Perez falling to her will. Mandy was then chosen to unify the NXT and NXT UK Women's Championships in September of 2022, taking on the very game Blair Davenport and the iconic Maiko Satomura in a triple threat match at the NXT Worlds Collide event. Rose would be victorious in this winner-take-all triple threat, a further cementing of her place in NXT, lending more credibility to the Toxic Attraction trio, and starting to stir up some people saying that maybe Mandy was bound for bigger things back on Raw and SmackDown, among some fans and some circling conversations. As her reign passed the 1-year mark, Mandy found herself defending at Halloween Havoc. Her opponent, Alba Fire, the recently rebranded from Kaylee Ray Superstar, who was a longtime NXT UK Women's Champion. She also fell to Rose, but managed to get in a dig about the champ, quote, falling on her arse at WrestleMania during the build-up. Regardless of that, it now seemed that Mandy Rose would be on a course to challenge Asuka for a record-setting 522-day reign with the NXT Women's Championship. I'm still not seeing any failings, you're saying to yourself. Hold on, where does this go south? Don't worry, the ball is about to be dropped. Rose's run at the top of NXT came to an abrupt and sudden end on the December 13th, 2022 episode of WWE NXT, toppled once and for all by the new to NXT but still very acclaimed Roxanne Perez. This capped off an impressive 413-day reign for the Toxic Attraction leader, who had seemed unbeatable until now. At first glance, it seemed that Rose was dropping the title in preparation for a return to the main roster, or perhaps maybe something different for Toxic Attraction. But this was not the case, as Mandy would be shockingly released by WWE just 24 hours after her title reign came to an end. And the story that came from it became one that really stirred up the conversation online. The story basically breaks down to this. WWE had some type of internal dispute over content that Mandy Rose was producing for her fan time account. WWE's officials had deemed the content too explicit and claimed it was a violation of her contract with the company. And just like that, Mandy was gone from WWE as one of the more popular new names coming up the ranks. Leaving Toxic Attraction without a leader, they would eventually separate in January of 2023. This seemed like an overreaction in the eyes of some to WWE, and given that Mandy's content was never mentioned in relation to programming or anything on WWE TV and was published independently by her, an independent contractor, it creates a whole other debate that has been in WWE fan circles for quite some time. The nature of her content was also allegedly no more explicit than some of the stuff WWE had put out over the years, leaving them to, in the eyes of some, look hypocritical in hindsight, though there were others that said if this is a contracted thing, why would you break your contract? Yeah, it's a debate, but in the eyes of many fans, a one-sided one. Following her release, Rose herself had made several comments about the hypocrisy of WWE making this move, noting that they could still sell merchandise and action figures related to her despite her no longer being employed by the company. She has also expressed her gratitude for her time with the company in a 2023 interview with TMZ, but also made sure to note that they were not the be-all, end-all when it came to her employment opportunities, and she certainly has been very successful outside of WWE. So for the arbitrary reason in the eyes of some, WWE pulled the plug on a dominant champion and a successful heel stable that they had been building for over a year. No payoff, no rematches, no main roster run, just a cold, swift end, leaving fans to wonder if this version of Mandy Rose, with or without Toxic Attraction, could ever be replicated within NXT or WWE in general. As of 2024, Mandy has still not returned to the pro wrestling ring, despite her ongoing gratitude for fan support, but we all know you can never say never in the world of professional wrestling. So don't be surprised to see Mandy show up somewhere for one more run before she hangs up her boots for good. And that's it for this video. Are you a Mandy Rose fan? Would you like to see her return to pro wrestling or WWE? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling for more great videos just like this.